Hi, everyone. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Steve Schreiber, chair of the Department of Architecture at UMass Amherst, and welcome to the second lecture of our spring lecture series. So before I get started with the introduction of today's speaker, I wanted to welcome those of you that are here for the Master of Architecture open house for the Accepted Students Day. We hope you've had a great day, that your questions have been answered, and that you will feel free to keep asking us questions, but we of course hope you'll come. And I also want to give a shout out to Pari Riahi, who is the organizer of this lecture series. And then one last comment before I get started with the introduction. The way that we'll work today is we are in a webinar style, so if you have questions, you can enter those either into the chat box or into the question and answer box. And at the end of the lecture, we will ask Dina to answer a few of the questions. But then at the end of the questions, we'll open up the room to everyone. So you can basically hang out for a little bit with Dina and with your fellow lecture attendees. So with that, I'm going to get on with the introduction. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Dina Griffin, who is FAIA, Fellow of the American Institute of Architects, NOMA, and IIDA, and she is President of Interactive Design Architects, IDEA or IDEA, which she became in 1999. Under her leadership, along with two partners, IDEA has successfully completed a multitude of projects for clients such as the University of Chicago, Chicago Public Schools, Anti-Cruelty Society of Chicago, and the General Services Administration, among others. They've partnered with internationally renowned architects, including Clark Pelly, HOK, and Renzo Piano Building Workshop. In 2016, IDEA was awarded the African American Cultural Center project at Dina's alma mater, the University of Illinois. That same year, the firm was selected to join the team of Todd Williams and Billy Shen architects to design the Barack Obama Presidential Center in Chicago. And Billy Shen was here in the fall, as you will recall. In addition to past leadership and board positions with the National Organization of Minority Architects and the AIA, she currently serves the International Interior Design Association, the Advisory Board for Contract Magazine, and on the Illinois Architect Licensing Board as chair and officer for Region 4 of the National Council for Architecture Registration Boards. And I will pause here to note that that's how I know Dina. So I have been in similar roles for Massachusetts, and we see each other at frequent NCAR meetings, although they've all been on Zoom this year. In 2018, Dina was a recipient of the IIDA Star Award, a Woman in Design honoree, and was elevated to the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects in recognition of her service to the profession, to society, and her dedicated outreach to minority architecture students and emerging professionals. The title of her lecture is Design for Community. Please join me in welcoming Dina Griffin.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Perry. This is a great honor. I'm just happy to be able to do this. And I also want to apologize anyone who was at the University of Illinois presentation. You're going to get a very similar presentation. But I feel it's important, especially after reactions that I get regarding lectures that I do, especially on diversity and increasing the numbers of architects of color. I just feel it's important to show a different path to doing that. Obviously, for me, a different path of matriculation through the profession. So with that, I'll get started. And I appreciate everyone being here. And I would like to say, because this just happened, We're experiencing, there was another mass shooting, this time in Atlanta. 8 people lost their lives. And I don't know what we can do other than to learn to accept each other to help lower these numbers. But the families of those victims are on my mind today. So cultivating design in diverse communities, and this is going to be a diverse look at the word diverse. So how do we define diverse? And that's, showing a great deal of variety. By the way, I did have to look this up for the right definition, but showing a great deal of variety, very different. And that kind of feeds into how I got to where I am. It all started, I'm sorry, I'm looking at a different screen. And hopefully you see the city of Chicago. It all started in the city of Chicago. This is where I was born. This is where I was raised. I absolutely love the city of Chicago. It has great architecture. It's a great location along the lakefront that looks like an ocean from one side or the other because you can't see the other side. It's a fantastic city, but it's a city not without its problems. The city of Chicago is one of the more segregated cities in the nation. I happen to be very fortunate, and I live in Hyde Park along the lake. It's on the south side of Chicago, but it's also, a very diverse neighborhood. Unlike, most of the neighborhoods on the south and west sides of Chicago and the north side. The north side is a very different feel than that of the south and west sides. That's where the people of color tend to live. But it's a fantastic city that needs, it needs help through this pandemic. It's suffering, and I'm hopeful for the city. I will say the weather sucks. I am not 85 degrees and higher is where I'm comfortable. And I know if I wasn't born here, I would definitely not move here. I would love to visit, but wouldn't move. I got my high school education at Kenwood Academy, which is also in Hyde Park in the city. At the time, it was one of the higher performing high schools. And it's, while I was here, I was pretty much going through the motions, getting my courses in, participating on sports activities. I'm a huge fan of tennis and a tennis player. So I was playing on the tennis team. I did everything a normal high school student would do, with the exception of not knowing what I was going to major in college. So in my junior year, we were required to take either home economics or industrial education. And industrial education was auto shop, welding, it was carpentry. It was not anything pretty. And to my ignorance, I thought home economics had to do with baking and cooking. And that's something to this day I have no interest in. So I said, what the heck, I'm going to do industrial education. I will get dirty. I don't care. Well, that year they happened to be teaching architectural drafting. And that was my entree into the profession of architecture. And when I say entree, it's not like I didn't notice the fantastic skyscrapers in the city of Chicago, but I just didn't tie it to a profession, or at least a profession that was available to me. And kudos to Kenwood for teaching courses like that. Kudos to the city of Chicago public school system for having courses available to students like that, because it really does open your eyes to what's out there and what you may be interested in and capable of achieving. The other entree to the profession was, and I kind of hate to admit this, but Mike Brady of the Brady Bunch. That was the only architect I saw on television. But anyway, I decided, architecture was what I wanted to major in. And because I waited so late, I had to go to another state school for 2 years And then ultimately I was able to transfer to the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, my alma mater. But when I got there, I felt, and this is the difficult part to share, and I wish I could see you, but I felt when I arrived that I didn't have the capabilities of my fellow students. I felt that they were so far advanced as far as their level of competency, their artistic ability. They were doing hand sketches of buildings that I only read about, but they've seen in person. And I just felt like I was I must be in the wrong profession. If I'm having trouble expressing what my ideas are onto paper, then this profession isn't for me. So I spoke up. I went to one of my professors, Professor Art Cahay is shown here. And I went to him and said, I'm going to have to transfer out of this program. I'll do engineering or whatever, but I need to transfer out of the School of Architecture. And he said, why would you want to do this? And I said, because I don't feel like I have the abilities to get through this program. And he told me, he basically said, give me a year. He said, and if you feel like this at the end of the year, he said, let us focus on your weaknesses, you focus on your strengths, and we will see where we are at the end of the year. And then you can transfer out if you feel up to it. Well, I worked hard, I got help, and I was able to at least do hand drawing to the best of my ability, which seemed to be good enough for the program. And I realized at that moment that these professors, these teaching assistants, other students, especially other students that are maybe in graduate school, the students notwithstanding, but the professors, the TAs, they're there to help. If you have a problem, if you have a concern, please go to your professors. Their job isn't just teaching in front of a class. It's also to be there to help guide you through this profession. And I certainly made use of my resources at the University of Illinois. But I still had a different idea or perspective of what architecture is. And I went through this long circuitous route of when I graduated, I got a degree in architecture, but I really still wasn't happy. So I enrolled at another school at Northwestern and enrolled in their civil engineering department. That clearly wasn't for me. I then said, you know what, I'm going to leave the profession altogether. And I decided to try real estate. I got a real estate license. I got a paralegal certificate. And all of that was just my way of trying to justify why I needed to be back in architecture. I had to find my own way back to the profession. And I have Professor Cahay to thank for that, and other mentors that I met along the way. And I want to stop here and just talk about mentoring for a little bit, because I do that a lot. Mentorship is defined or not defined as, because you're older or more experienced, you then mentor someone younger. You also have opportunities to mentor laterally, to mentor your friends, or get mentorship, get help from people who are going through the same thing that you're going through. And Professor Cahay, even though he's not a Black woman going through this this very difficult time, he was a person who reached out. Get that. Could you try again? Oh, sorry, that was Siri. He was a person who helped me through my path to the profession. So I just wanted to stress that. So after all of this very nonlinear path back to the profession, I am now at Interactive Design Architects. We are a 12-person firm. We are 50% women. We were 25% minority as of last year. We unfortunately lost a wonderful architect to a larger firm. But we have obviously diversity of color. We have diversity of gender. We have diversity of thought, diversity of age. We also have diversity of geography. And we're very proud of the people that we have on staff. And to be honest, the 12 that you're looking at is all of our staff. We don't have ancillary support and have it. And prior to the pandemic, we were, all in an open office. So we get to share diversity of thought with others, and people get to participate. And it's really quite an exciting collaborative environment. And I am looking forward to the day where we can all be back together. But that diversity of thought and diversity period has led us to get some incredible projects. And I'll go through these rather quickly, but this all kind of supports my theory about diversity and how it truly takes a village to raise an architect or to raise a project, to participate, to make something successful. It does take a village, and we're very proud of what we have accomplished. So the modern wing was was a big turning point for us. It was it's the 200 or close to 300,000 square feet addition to, 264,000 square feet addition to the Art Institute of Chicago. Renzo Piano Building Workshop was a design architect, and we were the architect of record. And it was a truly collaborative experience from day one. We participated from day one through the opening where you can see Renzo, former mayor of the city of Chicago, and me trying to talk to Renzo. But again, it was a wonderful experience, a wonderful 10-year project, and we're very proud of it. We'll just go through very quickly. Another type of diversity of people and diversity of abilities. The project on the left is St. Peter Claver. It's an apartment building for 71 units for independent living facilities for the elderly. And then the project to the bottom and to the right is this project we did for St. Leo. It's apartments for the differently abled. And these are two of my most meaningful projects. I mean, sure, we have the Obama Presidential Center, we have the Modern Wing, but projects like this where you are designing for communities that have lagged behind the rest of the city. This truly was, and then hearing the community's feedback about these projects is very rewarding. We also do a lot of work with General Services Administration, talk about diversity of portfolio. We run the gamut from modernizing courtrooms, facade replacements. This one was a mid-century modern building that had a single pane facade, and it was failing. So we did a double skin, which actually winds up to be 3 wides or levels of glazing for this building. Here's what it looked like before and then after with the new facade. It's a 37-story high-rise in Cleveland. And another facade replacement we did was here in the city of Chicago. It was for the Anti-Cruelty Society. This project, like the A.J. Celebrezzi project in Cleveland, required that no animals in this case, or people at the HAC facility, we could not disrupt their work inside. The dogs and cats for the Anti-Cruelty Society could not be disturbed throughout this process. And a successful project was achieved. This was a rain screen technology that we used on this facade. And then diversity of access. The Social Security Service Center, is a facility that is frequented by many people from diverse backgrounds, but it needed to be accessible. It also needed to be efficient and functioning. And we were able to redesign or design a facility that was completely accessible, and the ability to speak to a representative or do everything as self-service was designed into this process. This was a fun project for the project team to work on. They shared some very interesting stories about the design of this, but it's a self-service facility that also allows for one-on-one attention. And then, of course, we've done a lot of zoo projects. We don't do much of this anymore, but I'll just quickly go through this sea lion pool, the macaque, and a small zoo building. Corporate interiors, and again, I'll go through this very quickly. This is a corporate office headquarters relocation in the West Loop area in the city of Chicago. This is at the University of Chicago. This was a project, again, another collaboration. Payette out of Boston was the design architect and the architect of record. We were the associate architect for the renovation of the John Carrar Library. I do wish I had some before pictures because it is really quite a transformative project. But it was for the computer sciences division at the University of Chicago. And then we were also tasked with doing the FF&E package for the project. And then at the lower level of the University of Chicago, the same building, there was the same project team for Media Arts Data and Design Center. That was also a fun project. It's a hack arts lab, virtual reality, as you can see here. It's a gaming center, and you can come in and as a student walk in and participate in all that the Media Arts Center has to offer. Another collaboration with HOK. Again, we were the associate architect. They were the design architect for the William Eckhart Research Center. It was basically a building that was designed to attract a department that did not exist. That was the Institute of Molecular Engineering. They take up most of the space in this building. This was a very interesting project as well to work on. And then I wanted to kind of get to this project. This is at the University of Illinois, the Bruce Nesbitt African American Cultural Center. This was a challenging project and a meaningful project. When I went to school at the University of Illinois, this was actually called the Black House. This is what it looked like. The new building was designed for this site. The new building also had to be the same size as this building. This building was no longer functioning. It was actually dangerous to be in, so it was closed down for quite some time because it was not obviously designed to comply with any codes or accessibility during the time of the original design, and renovation was just not feasible. So the university decided to create a new facility. I show this picture because this project is on kind of a block of cultural houses. There's the Native American house, I think, is here. The Asian American house is over here to the north of it. Casa Latina is across the street, and it's close proximity to the main quad, which is very important. Like I said, when I was at school, this was called the Black House, and it was where a lot of students would go when students coming from the university or coming from the city of Chicago or other urban areas. And I know, like me, like I was fortunate enough to attend a well-integrated school, but not all of us have that experience. And sometimes it can be daunting coming to a campus where you're in a different environment. And the Black House was just a place for any student to come, to be honest, any student to come just to kind of have quiet time or, just have a small meal with somebody. It was just kind of a place for nurturing and just to kind of exhale a little bit. And the students, this building is actually designed for students, faculty, the administrative staff of BNAC, and the community of Urbana and Champaign. All are welcome for this community. But the main focus of this, and again, as I point out how close it is to the main quad, the users of this facility wanted to make sure that the building wear its identity. In other words, they wanted people to know without reading the sign where you were. And we went through this, we charretted the project in the office. We had a lot of interesting ideas about how to do this, especially when the university had very strict facility standards. We initially were told that we could only use red brick on the project, and that thank goodness we were able to convince them to allow us to ignore. But we developed a facade that really had its roots in basically, as I call it, the color of a people. This image at the top here is an image from a festival that I'm hopeful we can have again post-pandemic, but it's called the Chosen Few Old School Picnic, and it's an event that happens the first Saturday in July, and it's basically about house music. That's a type of music that was developed in the city of Chicago, and it's a great gathering. It started about 20 people behind the Museum of Science and Industry, and it has exploded to about 40,000 people. And everybody comes there to do two things: listen and dance to great music, and to catch up with people you haven't seen in a long time. And it's just a very joyous event. And the image to the left in the gray is the alma mater statue at the main quad at the University of Illinois, with open arms welcoming people to the university, welcoming all people to the university. And as you go down and start to pixelate these images, that lends itself into what ultimately is the facade of the building. The gray area here, the gray brick, which also permeates throughout the facade, it represents the foundation of the university. And then, of course, the different tones of the brick represent the color of a people, how we all come in different shades, colors, and backgrounds, and how that has led it to its identity on campus. And here is a finished shot. This was actually during the grand opening, the ribbon cutting of the building. It's a small building, as I said. It's 8,200 square feet was the area of the existing building, and we needed to stay within those parameters. This is actually my family here, my mother and my sister, and then one of our staff, who, by the way, just passed all of her exams. So kudos to her in getting her license soon. But this facade, the glass facade, the glass facade faces the quad, and it's actually open so that any passersby can see what's happening in the multi-purpose room that's above, or I mean, that's through this glass. The brick is feathered here, and it kind of opens up wider and wider as it goes west to almost draw people in. The main entrance is behind here. And again, the first level is pretty much transparent so that, again, walkers by, if they're curious as to what's going on there, they can see. The second level is it's more enclosed with punched openings because we wanted to create a space where people could go for more introspective learning, or they can just kind of relax. There's a computer lab up here. There's another conference area up here, plus the administrative staff for the Bruce Nesbitt African American Cultural Center is located on the second floor. There's also a partial basement in the lower level, which houses a dance studio and a radio station. The former building was the home of a radio station. They wanted to maintain that. So we have gotten some positive feedback about the facility, and again, unfortunately, COVID hit, so not as many students have been able to use it, but we're hopeful that will change soon. That's just me enjoying doing the final punch list. And more images of again, it's a small space, but we were able to fit their program into the facility. I just wanted to point out too, this indoor-outdoor, the outdoor bench is the board form concrete here, and this wraps into the multi-purpose room. So on the exterior, it's concrete, and then once you get inside, it's a millwork step that comes through the multi-purpose room glazing and then into the lobby and then turns back outside. Multi-purpose room here, and then the quiet study upstairs. This mural was plastered into the fireplace wall, the wall above the fireplace at the old building, and they wanted to preserve it, but you couldn't take that plaster. You could not remove the image from the wall because it was plaster. So the image was digitized and blown up to be transported into this space. That was very important for the students. And then I'm not saying finally, I'm not saying that this is our last project. I'm hopeful we get many more projects, but the Obama Presidential Center, of course, has great meaning that the First Lady and the President have chosen to site this building, not only in the city of Chicago, but on the south side of Chicago and in Jackson Park. And this is just literally down the street from where I live and where I went to high school. It feels like a come full circle moment for me. It's definitely the three projects that I highlighted, the Modern Wing, Bruce Nesbitt African American Cultural Center, and the Obama Presidential Center are definitely pinch me moments. And this is certainly at the top. Just an incredible project to work on, but more so an incredible legend that they're trying to, or I'm sorry, legacy that they're trying to achieve with this project. Just very quickly, the project is, it's in Jackson Park. Lakeshore Drive is over here for those in the know. You can see the lake beyond. The project extends to the lagoon. It removes an 8-lane roadway that most people use to see how fast their car can go, and I'm guilty of that. And it's definitely, it creates, its existence now creates an island of the site. And then once you extend the site and get rid of the 8-lane highway, or 8-lane street, you're now connected to the lagoon, which extends the park. The building is, the project is composed of 3 buildings, and that's the tower. That is the museum tower. That's where all of the exhibits will occur. There's also an observatory at the top that's free. It is not a ticketed. You don't have to have a ticket to enjoy the views from this building, the views of the city, of the lake. This exterior will be words that are from various speeches that have inspired the president, and also some of his own speeches. That's the museum tower. The next building is the forum building. That's where that's where the auditorium is. A lot of the performances will be there. There's a recording studio, there's dining, and then at the lower level of that, there are program spaces and the foundation offices. And then the final building is even though we call this the Presidential Center, there is a library on site. It's the Chicago Public Library. And that's a deal with the City of Chicago Public Library, and just getting a branch here, a small branch here, so that the community can have access to that. That will be operated separately from the Presidential Center. And then on top will be the garden, similar to what was at the White House, Michelle Obama's vegetable garden. But at the surface, when you approach the front entry or the main plaza, the buildings look like 3 separate buildings, but they're all connected at the lower level. And then there's a covered garage to the south. And then this is just a team of people that it takes to the village that we talked about. My 2 partners are there, and then there's Todd and Billy and Paul Schilhoff, who's another partner at TWBTA. And then, of course, we have a great client. This actual photo was taken at the unveiling of the site, because there was a competition of the Jackson Park site and the Washington Park site. And this was when we unveiled to the city and to the residents that the site would be Jackson Park. And it was just an incredible opportunity to be able to be on stage with President Obama and to be able to reveal this to the community that I know. I mean, we had, there were some of our neighbors there. There were people who either taught at the high school or graduated from the high school. There were people, obviously loved ones of the president and the first lady. And, you know, they all of these people have Chicago roots. So it was really an incredible moment to share this with the community at large and with the city of Chicago. But all that to say, you know, why am I here? Architecture and, you know, being head of a firm, to me, there's a great deal of responsibility. You know, when I was coming through, I told you about one of my mentors, Professor Cahay, and I'm about to tell you about another one, Alan Madison. But our numbers are so low. We didn't have very many women or people who look like us to go to for mentors. I mean, I was number 6 or 7 in the state of Illinois to get licensed. I shouldn't know that number. But this is, the following is, it reinforces what I was saying, that it truly does take a village, and you can find help and mentorship in any shape or form. And, I always chuckle when I see this, but I include this picture of a drink for a reason. I was at the 2004 convention in Chicago, 2004 American Institute of Architects annual convention in Chicago. And my participation with AIA at that time was I paid my dues and that was it. And I went to convention so that I could get continuing education units. And I get to the convention hall and I run into Alan Madison. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he is was a Black architect in Chicago. And he was so focused on bringing people up, mentoring people, making sure that people had what they needed, making sure people were taking the exam. He was very instrumental in mentoring. And I bumped into him at the convention. He said, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Oh, I've got to go to this seminar so I can get my continuing education units." And I said, I have to keep up that, I have to keep those 3 initials after my name because, and I could see he was getting a little concerned. And I said, what has AIA done for me lately? All I get with my dues is those 3 initials after my name and a magazine. And he said, "You know what? You're no longer going to your seminar. You're coming with me." And he said, he sat us down. We went to the hotel bar and he ordered a drink that looked just like this. And I knew I was in trouble because at the time, I'm a huge wine fan now, but my palate was not developed, should I say, at that time. And I think I may have ordered a wine spritzer or something, but clearly he meant business when he ordered a glass like this. And he basically said to me, "Dina, you put into the organization what you get out of it. And you also cannot kick the dents out of the can from the outside." And I said, "Oh my goodness." He said, "So here's what I want you to do. I want you to start participating at the board level of these organizations that you say have done nothing for you." He said, "I want you to start participating. I want you to sit on the AIA Chicago board. Then I want you to do AIA Illinois. And then I want you to be involved with NCARB. And then I want you to serve on the licensing board for the state of Illinois." And my mouth was agape. I did not know how to respond to that. First of all, it sounded very daunting. But this is exactly what he had been doing. And come to find out, I said yes. I'm not going to say no to Alan. Come to find out that he passed away shortly after that. And I certainly did exactly, whether he passed away or not, I was going to do exactly what he told me to do. And he's right. The discussions, the decisions, the direction, all of these things that you can steer, you get exposed to at the levels of participation at the board level of all of these organizations. As he said, it truly takes a village. And now, because of the events of last summer, the murder of George Floyd, these organizations now are finding even better ways to collaborate. They're joining forces, providing support from one to the other, not just one way, not just AIA or NCARB, extending a hand to NOMA. It's also NOMA informing NCARB and AIA. And the student organizations are such a great conduit for finding that camaraderie, that mentorship, and the programs that they put together. I've been blown away by the AIAS in the state of Illinois and the student chapter of NOMA. But it truly takes a village to help steer this ship and turn this ship around, because we are still at a very dismal level. We have surpassed the 500 mark. This equation is the number of Black female architects in the country. We're probably now in the 520s. And this is the total number of architects in the nation. And it is a resounding 0.4%. And with Black male architects, I think they're at, I want to say 1,800 or 2,800. Either way, it's a small number. And I'm trying to walk in the footsteps of those who helped me by doing the same. And as I said before, and I promise we're getting to the end of this, but as I said before, mentoring is not linear. Mentoring doesn't just start from someone older going through this or having gone through the same thing. Yes, it helps, and we want to continue to do that. But there are other types of mentorship that can be found in your peers and people who are behind you. The young women who are newly mentored architects or who are on their way to become licensed are doing some amazing things, trying to expose more people of color to the profession. And this is just a few things that I've done, just reaching elementary school students, having them shadow me in my office, which is, I wonder how I would treat it now, even though I don't have kids. It's very different working from home and having someone mentor you, but those of you with kids would probably know what that's like. But making sure that instead of what happened to me, which is getting exposed to architecture in my junior year of high school, which I feel is late. I mean, it's not too late, but it's late. I would like to see more kids at a younger age getting exposed to and deciding on whether or not this is something they want to do. I do a lot of events at the university level, and I'm hopeful to add UMass Amherst on the screen. And then just at the professional level, making sure that I am there to support and be supported by women who are doing the same thing. And it's all about changing the face of our profession, making it more welcoming, and being at the forefront of addressing diversity and its challenges. I will say there have been some notable changes. Actually, this is all I have with the slides, but I've noticed some changes already with regards to how larger firms or majority-owned firms approach us for potential collaborations. I've seen a shift in the mindset of how that would work, making sure that ample opportunity is given and that a true sharing of the work is achieved, and not just handing somebody a set of documents to complete after you've gone through the design process. Making sure you have a meaningful role on the projects has been, I have noticed a difference, and I'm hopeful that continues to help make change and change the numbers that we so desperately need to see go away. So with that, that's all I have. We can open it up to questions, or Steve, I'll let you say that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was amazing. So I have to say that everything was incredible. Your work, the story, but the story about the mentors, the two different mentors, was so, so moving, I thought. And, basically how someone else can make such a difference in someone's life. So thank you for sharing those stories.
Sure.
So we have 3 questions. So what I'd like to do is go through these and then basically open up the webinar so that we can all see each other and we can chat. And I've noticed that I was looking and I could see that the leaders of our student groups are here. So we have AIS chapter, and then we have a fledgling NOMAS chapter. So I'd love it if we could simply just have a conversation. But let's
Glad
go
I
through
did
the
a
questions.
shout out then.
Yeah. The Women in Design, we have a Women in Design group also. So, and other student organizations, but those are the most active right now. So I'm going to start with this one. I appreciate how you spoke about your early introduction to architecture, and in particular that you didn't really think about architecture as a discipline that you could take part in until your high school class. Have you given any thought about whether young people today who engage with your buildings see themselves as participants in this field? Has anything changed since you were in high school? And then there's a comment, and the feathered brick on the AACC is beautiful, exclamation point.
Oh.
I agree. Yeah.
Thanks. So that first question again, my refrigerator just decided to make a lot of noise. Can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, the first part of the question was, have you given any thought about whether young people today who engage with your buildings see themselves as participants in the field?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what? That question just gave me an idea because I don't see, because the campus, for instance, at the University of Illinois, the Bruce Nesbitt African American Cultural Center is located in Urbana, and we're in Chicago. I have heard how the college-age students have interacted with the building and how they feel about the building, and it's all been very positive. But that's a great point. I'm in a position now to affect the way somebody else sees architecture. And the one thing that we don't do, right, is your name, or, well, that's not true. Your name does sometimes go on the building, but in this case, our name is not on the building. So no one would know walking by that this was designed by, a Black person. We have to figure out a way to do that. And I think field trips, one of the things we did at University of Illinois, Professor Catherine Anthony, she brought her grad students to the Modern Wing for a tour. And that's what we were doing a little bit with some of the students from the Spark program, where the young girl at the time was shadowing me. But we brought these graduate students there, and that was a great way of, number one, explaining the building to them in a way that, people who work on the building can only do, but also, allowing them to see the design, basically see behind the curtain of how these projects are developed. But I need to work on figuring out how to, conduct tours or give people a little insight into our projects.
That's great. Another question was regarding the partnership with, or the collaboration with Billy Shen, Todd Williams. I think you answered that. I think this question came in before that, but I don't know if you want to say anything more about that.
About how it's going?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going. We are Todd and Billy, we can see why the president and the first lady selected them. They are, they're a great husband and wife team. It's been very fascinating to see this process kind of unfold. We're not the designer, but we're working just like we did with Renzo Piano. From day one, we were intricately involved in the process of the design of the Modern Wing at the Art Institute. Similar with this, although they've had, of course, more meetings, more design meetings with the president outside of the ones that I've attended. But it is fascinating to see the process unfold. And I will say too that the clients, the president and the first lady, are very much engaged in the process. This building is very important to them, and they know how important this building is to the city. So, you know, we're grateful to work on this project. Every project has, you know, challenges, and this one is certainly no exception. And we're just working as a team, you know, to deliver a good project.
Awesome. There was a question about one of the earlier projects that you showed. Can you explain a little bit about the double skin facade?
Right. So this was the AJ Celebrezzi project, and this was not my project, but I think I can talk to it. The AJ Celebrezzi is was a 37-story high-rise in Cleveland that had a single pane, just a single pane of glass with, I don't know if I can't remember what the cladding was, but the glass was a single pane, and just thermodynamically it was failing. We decided as part of the design that to make this building efficient, that it would be a new triple glazed facade. It's actually a single glaze at the original window line, and then outboard of that, with separated of, I think it's 2.5 to 3 feet, then there's a double skin of 2 more planes of glass that help to make this building more efficient. The building is also sited on, in Cleveland, the grid is rotated about 35 degrees. So it's, you get sun on all facades of the building, so to varying degrees. So the design team introduced these sun shelves, light shelves, that gave more light to a building, you know, in the winter time and less in the summer. It's an incredible technology, and I think it was one of the first that was applied to a high rise. We did it at the modern wing as well, but this was the first that was a retrofit for a high rise here in the United States.
That's wonderful. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to elevate everyone here to panelists, which means that we'll all be in the same room. And there was so it's going to take us a minute or so to do that. And you may wish to stop share so that we can all.
That's right.
Yeah. So give us a second there. And Pari and I will make this happen. So.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I can just, you can keep talking and I can do this.
Yeah, okay. Then I'll ask the next question, which was, this is someone that really loved the chosen process used to create the facade of the Bruce Nesbitt building, the one that we were just talking about. What was the community reaction without the signage?
Everybody loved it. I will say that we had many, talk about it takes a village to design a building. We had many meetings with students, faculty, staff, community. It was, and we had those meetings as a group all together, but we also had them separately so that they could speak freely, you know, as to what they wanted to see in the project. And the one thing that was really important for everybody was the identity of the building. And some people had very different ideas as to what that identity looked like. There were some students who, you know, were, they were interested in having Africa, the continent, represented somehow in the space or on the facade. But we talked through that. We talked about the Great Migration from the South and how, my father was one of those who migrated from Mississippi to Chicago, and how so many people of color did that, coming up and helping to build and populate, the major cities of the North, and how that could kind of come into play. But we took all of those things into consideration and ended up with the multi-tonal facade. And again, the biggest hurdle was convincing the university because it wasn't red brick.
We're all here. So if you can turn your cameras on too, that'd be amazing.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think we had 70 people at one point. But... Hi, everyone. So feel free to just speak up.
Yeah, I loved your stories about mentorship, and I think a lot about design and architecture in regards, well, particularly to women, but I think also women of color, and also bringing the concepts of design to a much younger audience, sort of bringing that into elementary education and so on. I was curious if you knew of any organizations that did that, or if you'd given any thought to that idea.
Erica, I don't know, where are you from?
I'm from Western Massachusetts.
Okay, so we have, I told you many ways, I love my city. I just love Chicago. I hate the weather, but I love my city. But we have got some incredible organizations here around architecture, and those organizations partner with each other to develop programs. But one of the biggest programs that we have is called Project Pipeline. Have you heard of it?
I haven't, no.
It is a program that was developed, I forget the origins, but NOMA, the National Organization of Minority Architects, has partnered with the likes of Gensler and HOK and all of these firms that create what's called Project Pipeline, and it's a conduit for City of Chicago public schools to participate at the elementary school level, and they participate in a camp that they do every summer. It's a day camp. They do every summer, and at the end of this day camp, which lasts, I know someone's going to correct me. I think the details are on NOMA's website, noma.net. But the camp, the purpose of the camp is to design a particular project type from start to finish, but also go and visit construction sites and if they're able to, considering their age. But and then they bring students, they bring professionals to the students. So I've participated in the final event, which is presenting your built project, your model, to the rest of the organization. And this happens in a very historic place, the School of Architecture at Illinois Institute of Technology. So you're in a Mies design space, and all these hungry students are there to learn about the process of architecture. And students who participate in the camp are of different age groups, so they have different levels of projects and design that they need to achieve. But they are introduced to the profession so early, to the point where there was a sister and brother that I knew, and the brother wasn't old enough to participate, but he was being dragged along by his parents to see his sister complete this program. And he was like, I want to compete. And he was too young to do it. But I think I think he must have been 6, and I think that was just too young.
That sounds incredible. I'm definitely gonna look into that.
Yeah, and it's noma.net.
Okay.
And it's called Project Pipeline.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another Erica. I was
Hi,
just wondering,
Erica.
do you
With
know
a
if this-
K.
with a K. I was wondering if you know if the Chicago Architecture Foundation is still coordinating a whole curriculum. I mean, I have the book here. It's from like 2007, I think. But for a while, all Chicago 8th graders were, having architecture as part of an integrated part of their middle school or high school curriculum.
Yeah, I'm going to have to plead ignorance on that one. One of the architects on staff, Paul Steinbrecher, he's incredible. He's just this wealth of knowledge, especially the historical knowledge of the city. But he used to be a docent at the Chicago Architecture Foundation when it was called the Chicago Architecture Foundation. Now it's called Chicago Architecture Center. And they moved it from South Michigan Avenue to right on the river at Michigan Avenue and Wacker. And it's a heavily traversed space so that walk-ins, and the place is absolutely amazing. You see these super tall models, in the space. They've got that model of the city of Chicago, which is just incredible. But I do know that they're starting the tours. They're starting the tours again, socially distanced. I don't know how they're going to do that, but I don't know about the student, but that's something I bet you could find on their website.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool model. And I know that the Boston Society of Architects, like Boston's AIA chapters, really looked at Chicago as a model, not only for the kind of retail architecture and putting it literally on the storefront, but also for integrating curriculum. So. Right.
And Erica DeWitt, I wanted to mention to you, because Erica Zekos, is it? She reminded me that Chicago Women in Architecture also participate in the architect, like we did this co-event with NOMA and Chicago Women in Architecture Architect Barbie program, because you know how dolls really do influence a young girl's life. And Architect Barbie came out, and when they came out, we did a whole, did a whole event around it. So I just wanted to mention them as a resource as well. We've got, I don't know about you in Boston, but we've got some incredible organizations. We've been very fortunate with like NOMA and AIA, but the student chapters are just awesome, incredible.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No, nothing. Oh, there's a hand.
So I love your stories about practice and the complexities of it. And I just wonder, I'm sure you have confronted a lot of situations in which you had to navigate conflicts of different scales, of different sorts. And, at some point you can't necessarily rely on your mentors and you have to make a series of decisions. And I just wondered if you wanted to share one anecdote on the issue of conflicts, or just talk about it as someone who has worked on a lot of collaborative projects.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. That's a good question. Let me think about that. There have been, so when I showed the image of our firm, all 12 of us, you saw everybody in our firm. That was it. And everybody is is either licensed, on the path to licensure, or equivalent, whereas their capacity to complete projects is on par with that of a licensed professional, but they haven't achieved that yet. And then we have one person who's just out of school, but learning, absorbing very well. So, I have experienced conflict within the office with regards to HR issues or, other issues. And, I do reach out to a network of people to help. But then there are those in which, you can't reach out. You just have to go on your instinct. And the first thing that I do whenever there's something that is challenging, I make sure it's confronted. We don't want something to fester. That's no good for anybody. And we don't want to pull the wool over our eyes and pretend like it doesn't exist. So confrontation in that way is not a negative thing. It means, what I mean is that we have to address any issues that bubble to the top. The second thing is make sure you do what's right. And I see it or hear it in your question. You want to know what's right, but you'll know it when you're in it. I'm always a stickler about doing the right thing, and making sure that that gets communicated. But you're right. There are many times where you can't pick up the phone or text somebody and say, help, what do I do? What do I do in this moment? It's not possible, but you really have to trust your instincts and make sure you're fair and do, even if it means, saying, I'm sorry, that we did not intend to do that. Those things need to be addressed, especially when it's a challenging situation. Just always, and I will pick up the phone. I will not email somebody that, we have to talk, or there is an issue that needs to be resolved. If it's difficult for me or in me, I'm talking about our firm, or difficult for someone else, I'm not gonna send an email. I will pick up the phone. Something did happen that was someone did something that was not pleasant, and the person to whom the I'll call the victim in this case, emailed me right away and said basically that, this happened, but they were not well aware of everything that was going on. And it was a difficult situation for me, and it was a difficult situation for the firm. But I addressed it right away. I picked up the phone, called the person, talked to them, explained everything. And luckily we're back at the point where, we're together again. But you just have to address it, do what's right, and make sure it doesn't fester.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Patson.
Hi, just to tag along to that question, if I can ask kind of a vulnerable thing. Have you ever felt like you were, as a firm, you were treated unfairly, or like something like an imbalance was happening? And how did you, in that sense, how did you confront that and overcome that in a positive way?
So like I've said, we have had really good collaborations, the pinch me moment kind of collaborations. And we have had some that we've learned from. And we've had experiences where we didn't feel that we were valued properly. And you just learn from those experiences, and do the best you can, and then make sure that you don't repeat it. We have, prior to the events of last year, we would get calls for collaborations, and at first you're kind of on a high. We do our own projects. Is it a desire to collaborate? On occasion we want to do that, but we also want to do our own projects. But then there's some collaborations that come along that you just can't refuse, like Renzo Piano or OPC, or some others. But we have been in situations where I will get a phone call or an email and say, hi, Ms. Griffin, we are pursuing this project. We would love it if you would join our team. And oh, by the way, your information is due on Tuesday and it's Friday, you know? So I've started, again, prior to last year, I started asking people point blank when they call, are you calling because you really want to collaborate with our firm, or are you calling to check a box? And I have had people say, oh no, we've looked at your website, we know what you've done at this project and that project, and we really want you to join our team. Yet the deadline is the following week. And if you really want, I know that RFP didn't just come out. So that to me is learning from an experience and not wanting to repeat. On the other hand, if I ask you when you call, are you trying to check a box? And I have had firms say, absolutely, we're trying to check a box. We want to meet the minority. For those of you who don't know, we are certified by the City of Chicago and the state of Illinois as a minority and woman-owned business enterprise. And there's a requirement in the City of Chicago to meet certain goals. But anyway, I've had them call and say, absolutely, we're checking a box. We're trying to meet this. And yes, we want you to work on this project. We've been on your website. We've talked to people that you've worked with, and we really want to collaborate with you. And those are the ones that I appreciate. Those are the ones that, you know, at least you can move forward to the second round of discussions, because you know they're going to be honest with you. And you also know that you bring value to this collaboration, and they will, you know, you have to make sure you express that you want some sort of authentic piece of the puzzle in which you have authorship. So when they're open to conversations like that, that to me is the start of a good collaboration. But yes, that's when it's been difficult, when you get into situations where your value is not appreciated. Anything else?
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm trying to look at both screens and I can't see anyone else with their hand.
There was a raised hand for a moment, but I couldn't see who on the.
It was Richard Marceau.
Yeah,
Oh, Richard, go ahead. Richard,
Yeah.
you're on the air.
I was just a little confused by your statement. So is it the people who say that they're checking a box, or is it the people who say that they're actually interested that you? I just
I know it sounds confusing. It's when the people admit and acknowledge that, yes, they are checking a box, but they are also valuing what we would bring to the table. That's all I'm saying, that I'm okay with somebody admitting that they want to check a box. What makes me a little nervous is the ones that say, no, we're not checking a box. We really want you to join our team. Those are the ones that I'm a little, you know, suspect, because they're not acknowledging the truth that they are checking a box. Is that clear?
yeah. So it's more of a transparency thing.
It's a transparency thing and a value. It's a making sure that the firm values what we would bring to the table.
All right.
Is that
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful lecture and discussion.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And we look forward to the time that you can come visit us in person.
I would love that. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you all for participating. Uh-oh.
No, I'm clapping.
Oh, I didn't do it. Good. Okay. I thought I hit the close button, sorry. But thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for participating from your homes. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.